You're watching Established Chernobyl.
That answers your question.
Here comes a new challenger!
Who are these guys anyways? Hello, I'm Edea, and this is Seifer. Hello, and welcome back to our 31 Days of Disneycember, because today we're going to take a look how Disney Tower of Terror works. But it's not a Halloween ones too, but this is definitely a late Halloween, so don't miss it. So,
this video is brought to you by NordVPN. Keep yourself protected online by going to
So it's a little bit
nordvpn.com/art
sponsor,
of engineering to get 75% off a 3-year plan. Link below.
Ooh, this is gonna be a good
The
spooktacular.
Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at Disney's Hollywood
That's a
Studios
tower
is
one.
often regarded as
Very
the best thrill ride
haunted.
to ever come out of Disney Imagineering.
Very spooky.
The attraction seamlessly combines a 13-story drop tower with immersive dark ride elements, all tied together with detailed storytelling. The ride was considered to be an engineering marvel when it opened in the summer of 1994, and although it may not have some of the advanced technologies that are common on rides built more recently, it is still an impressive achievement even by today's standards.
Very impressive.
The Tower of Terror was such a success for Disney that it was replicated on 3 separate occasions.
That's still
At
going
California
later,
Adventure in
Halloween.
2004, Tokyo Disney Sea in 2006, and Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris in 2007. The Tokyo version utilized a different theme and storyline compared to the other 3 towers, and I personally find it to be the most aesthetically pleasing of the 4 attractions. In 2017, the California version was rethemed to the Guardians of the Galaxy film series, which included the addition of animatronics and large screens for the show scenes. However, the overall mechanics of the ride remained unchanged. The first Tower of Terror in Orlando and the most recent installation at Disneyland Paris both maintain the Twilight Zone theme, which is based on the classic TV series that aired from 1958 to 1964. The 4 Tower of Terror attractions are all similar in concept. However, the original Hollywood Studios version features a unique ride system that is far more complex than the others, and it offers an experience that can't be found anywhere else. The tower portion of the ride building is 60.7 meters in height, and it houses 2 48-meter-tall elevator shafts where the drop sequences take place, along with a large mechanical room above the shafts for the elevator motors. The rear portion of the building is about half of the overall height at 32 meters tall, and it contains the dark ride component of the attraction along with the queue, load and unload areas, maintenance and control rooms, and the gift shop. There are 4 elevator shafts located at the back of the ride, and these connect to the main drop shafts through horizontal passageways at the 1st and 5th show floors.
Ooh,
After guests go through the hotel
horrible
lobby,
ideas, what I'm talking
library
about.
pre-show, and boiler room scene.
Still
They
bothering
then board
itself
one of the 4
anyways.
rear elevators at the 2nd floor.
That's still
At this
not a
point,
good
it appears
pricing
that the
on
elevator car is the ride vehicle itself, but the guests are actually boarding a semi-autonomous
Still a
vehicle
little
that is
bit
positioned
boring,
inside
huh?
the elevator car.
That's
The ride
still
vehicles are loaded onto the elevators on the first floor below the passenger loading area, and they are held in place by a locking mechanism on the floor of the elevator car so they don't shift as the elevator moves. Once the passengers have boarded, the ride starts by lifting the elevator to the first show scene. For the 2 inner shafts, the show scene is located on the 3rd floor, and for the 2 outer shafts, the scene is located on the 4th floor. All 4 show scenes are identical, but they are set like this to conserve floor space. When the elevator doors open, the passengers see a long corridor where 5 hotel guests seemingly appear out of thin air. The figures then disappear in a burst of electricity as the hallway goes dark to reveal a single window in a field of stars.
Ooh, something's a little bit mysterious about to come. Very haunting.
This scene is accomplished with 2 primary techniques that Disney uses quite often: forced perspective and an optical illusion known as Pepper's Ghost. The opening of the corridor is life-size, but the walls, floor, and ceiling all slope inwards,
Still
so that the height at the very end is only about 1.2 meters.
Ooh.
This makes it appear much longer than it really is when viewed from the inside. The wall at the end of the corridor is a rear projection screen with a projector placed on the opposite side. At the beginning of the scene, a normal wall with a window is projected onto the screen, but the wall fades out of the image as the lights go out to give the illusion of a window floating in space. At the front of the corridor, just behind the first arch, there is a large pane of glass oriented at a 45-degree angle that spans the entire width and height of the hallway. This aligns with a second perpendicular hallway where another rear projection screen is hidden out of view. The 5 hotel guests are projected onto this screen, and the image is reflected in the pane of glass, making them appear in the middle of the corridor. This illusion is known as Pepper's Ghost, and it is the same effect that was famously used for the ballroom scene in the Haunted Mansion.
That's the way I'm darkening it out.
After the ghostly figures disappear, the projection screen slides out of the hallway to reveal fiber optic cables that are used to create the starfield. Many of the walls in the corridor are scrims made out of fabric, and fiber optic cables are actually hidden all over the show scene behind the walls, as well as inside the elevator car. When the set goes dark, the light from the cables shines through the scrims, and the cables in the perpendicular hallway are reflected in the glass to make the starfield appear three-dimensional. The corridor scene is complete. The elevator is then lifted to the 5th floor, where the ride vehicle exits into the 5th dimension show scene. This scene features a number of visual effects, including a second starfield that is achieved by 2 large mirrors with fiber optic cables hidden behind them. The mirrors are oriented at an angle to each other in a V shape, and as the ride vehicle approaches, they slide apart to allow it to pass through. Although there are 4 loading elevators and 4 corridor show scenes in the ride building, there are only 2 5th dimension scenes on the 5th floor. The 4 loading elevators are arranged in pairs, and each pair connects to one of the main drop shafts through a single show scene. The horizontal motion for this part of the ride uses a trackless system, where the semi-autonomous ride vehicles navigate across the 5th floor from one elevator shaft to the other. The vehicles are known as wire-guided AGVs, or automated guided vehicles, and they are equipped with sensors that ride close to the floor surface. There are wires installed in the floor that are used to transmit radio signals to the vehicle, and the vehicle is programmed to follow the wires in a similar fashion to a line-following robot.
Still mechanic.
The signals can also be used to control the speed, direction, and orientation of the vehicle as it travels along the predetermined path. If the ride loses power and the radio signals are cut off, or if something falls onto the floor and covers a wire, then the vehicle will come to a stop automatically.
That still
the wire guidance system can be quite sensitive, and it is one of the primary causes of downtime for the ride. Once the ride vehicle exits the 5th dimension scene, it then boards an elevator car in the drop shaft for the main drop sequence. The elevator cars here are similar to the ones used in the 4 loading shafts, and they also have a locking mechanism to secure the ride vehicles in place. The ride has 4 pre-programmed drop sequences that it can execute, and the computer selects one at random for each ride. Each sequence consists of a number of varying drops and launches up the tower, with one full drop from a height of 39.6 meters, or about 13 stories. At the top of the ride, elevator doors on the front of the tower are open, giving guests a bird's-eye view of Hollywood Studios. The 2 drop shafts actually extend about 8 meters above this point inside the tower, but the top portion is not utilized during the drop sequences. A certain distance is also required to safely bring the elevator car and ride vehicle to a stop at the bottom of the tower, and so the maximum drop height that passengers experience before braking is only about 27.4 meters. The ride system that is used for the drop sequences is based on the traditional traction elevator, and it is not that different from an elevator that you might find in a normal high-rise building. The system was designed by the Otis Elevator Company, and it uses 2 giant induction motors to accelerate riders up and down, reaching a maximum speed of about 63 kilometers per hour. One motor is positioned above each elevator shaft in a mechanical room at the top of the tower, and each one weighs nearly 60 metric tons and can generate 2,000 horsepower. Each motor is connected to 2 cable drums in series, and there is 1 solenoid brake on the end of each drum for a total of 4 brakes per elevator. 2 steel cables are wound onto the first drum, and these extend down through the floor where they connect to the top of the elevator car, which travels along rails that are fixed to the walls of the shaft. A single cable is more than strong enough to support the full weight of a car along with a fully loaded vehicle, but 2 cables are used for redundancy. 2 additional cables are wound onto the second drum in the opposite direction, and they are attached to a counterweight that is used to offset the weight of the elevator car. The counterweight travels along its own set of rails inside the shaft, and it weighs about as much as a single elevator car with an empty ride vehicle, so that the motor only needs to supply enough power to raise and lower the weight of the passengers.
That's a good
2 more cables extend off the bottom of the counterweight, and they run around a compensation pulley at the bottom of the shaft before connecting to the bottom of the elevator car. This closed loop allows the motor to pull the elevator car downwards, resulting in acceleration that is faster than a freefall. When the motor spins in one direction, the car is pulled up from above, and when it spins in the opposite direction, the car is pulled down from below. The result is an intense experience unlike any other elevator, where riders experience complete weightlessness one moment and are pushed into their seats the next. But just like any regular elevator, the Tower of Terror features a number of redundant safety systems that keep guests safe. First, there are the 4 solenoid brakes on the cable drums that are used to control the speed of the elevator. Each brake has 2 arms with friction pads that are clamped against the drum by a preloaded spring. There is a solenoid at the top of the brake, and when electricity flows through it, the resulting electromagnetic force pushes a plunger outward which separates the pads from the drum. When the flow of electricity is cut off, the electromagnetic force is stopped, and the spring pushes the pads back against the drum. The friction between the drum and the pads slows the drum down and brings the elevator car to a stop. This design is fail-safe because the brakes are always active in their default state when the solenoid is powered off, and they will stop the ride automatically in the event of a power failure. If the brakes were to fail, then a mechanical speed governing system on the elevator car would activate emergency friction brakes that clamp onto the elevator guide rails. There is a similar speed governing system on the counterweight as well, so both the counterweight and the elevator car can be brought to a stop by the emergency brakes. In the unlikely event that both steel cables supporting the car were to snap, this would also activate a set of emergency brakes to prevent the car from falling down the shaft. If all of these safety mechanisms were to fail simultaneously, which is extraordinarily unlikely, then the falling elevator car would create a cushion of compressed air in the bottom of the shaft, which would help to slow the fall.
Ooh,
there are shock absorbers installed at the bottom of each shaft that would help break the fall as well. However, these are not designed to catch an elevator car in freefall. Fortunately, this has never occurred on any of the Tower of Terror attractions, thanks to an over-engineered design and redundant safety systems. While we're on the topic of safety, I want to take a moment to tell you about today's sponsor, NordVPN. Just like thrill rides have layered safety systems to keep you protected at the theme park, NordVPN gives you an extra layer of safety to keep you protected online. When you connect to the internet with a VPN, all of your traffic passes through an encrypted tunnel, which prevents your internet service provider and other third parties from watching and tracking your online activities. NordVPN uses military-grade encryption protocols with no data logging, so all of your personal information stays private and secure. If you're not using a VPN, then you may be leaving yourself vulnerable to identity theft and data loss, including stolen files, passwords, and banking information. Of course, in addition to online protection, it can also be a useful tool for accessing geo-restricted web pages simply by connecting to a server in another region. There are thousands of servers available in over 60 countries, and it only takes a few seconds to get connected.
That's a lot of
Internet security is an issue that really needs to be taken seriously in today's online space, and I highly recommend that you keep yourself protected with NordVPN. You can save 75% on a 3-year plan by going to nordvpn.com/artofengineering, or by using the link in the description. That works out to less than $3 per month to keep all of your data safe, and for a limited time, you can also use promo code ArtofEngineering to get an additional month for free. I personally use NordVPN to keep myself protected online, and it really helped me out by sponsoring this video, so please check them out by going to the link and consider signing up for a 3-year plan. It helps to support me and this channel, but more importantly, it helps to keep you and your data safe online. Thanks for listening, and now let's jump back into Tower of Terror. After the ride has completed its drop sequence in the drop shaft, the elevator then moves to the first floor where the ride vehicle reverses out of the elevator. The vehicle moves backwards to the unloading area, and it rotates 90 degrees for the guests to exit onto the unloading platform. While the vehicle is in this position, an inductive charging system in the floor is used to charge the onboard battery, in the same way that you might charge a cell phone on a wireless charging pad. This is the only time during the entire ride cycle when the vehicle is stationary on the ground, and so it's also the only time when the battery can be charged. The battery provides the vehicle with just enough power for its self-driving and communication functions, and this is one of the reasons why there is no audio or lighting on board any of the ride vehicles. Instead, all of the ride's audio and lighting systems are located within the show scenes and inside the elevator cars.
Ooh, do I hear a Twilight Zone looking?
Once all of the guests have unloaded, the ride vehicle then moves to the rear of the building, where it boards one of the two loading elevators on its half of the ride, and it is lifted up to the loading platform for the next group of passengers. Since there are two loading elevators paired with each drop shaft, each half of the ride can accommodate 4 ride vehicles operating at any given time. One at the loading platform, one in the show scenes, one in the drop shaft, and one at the unloading platform. This means that a total of 8 vehicles can be cycling through the attraction at once, giving a total ride capacity of nearly 2,000 guests per hour. And since the two halves of the ride are independent from each other, one side can often operate by itself when attendance is low, or when the other side is down for maintenance. This ride system makes the Tower of Terror very efficient. However, Disney decided to make changes to the design for the California, Tokyo, and Paris versions to increase the capacity further and reduce downtime.
Well, that's any farther on now.
Since the wire-guided AGVs were a common source of reliability issues, they eliminated the need for self-driving vehicles by removing the fifth dimension scene and the 4 loading elevators. The corridor scenes that were previously attached to the loading elevators were moved over to the drop shafts, and a second show scene was added at the 5th floor. The scenes vary quite a bit between attractions, especially with the recent conversion of the California Tower to Mission Breakout. However, they all originally featured similar effects like Forced Perspective and Pepper's Ghost, as well as other mirror tricks. Since the new ride layout does not utilize AGVs, the loading platforms had to be relocated to the drop shafts, but here the ride vehicles are loaded and unloaded outside of the elevator. Once passengers have boarded a vehicle, it is pushed into the elevator car by a mechanical grab that travels along a track, and after the ride is finished, the grab pulls the vehicle back out of the elevator for unloading. A second loading area was also added one level below the first, which allows one vehicle to be loaded while the second one is going through the ride cycle.
Second floor.
The elevator system itself is essentially identical to the original one used in Orlando, but here it is used for the main drop sequence as well as moving between the show scenes. Since each drop shaft can only accommodate 2 ride vehicles in this configuration, a third shaft was added so that a total of 6 vehicles can cycle through the attraction at a time.
Vehicles than
This greatly increased the overall capacity of the ride, and it also allows 2 shafts to remain open when one is down for maintenance. There's no arguing that the second iteration of Disney's Tower of Terror is a far more optimized design compared to the original Hollywood Studios version. However, it doesn't quite offer the same immersive experience that you can only find in Orlando. While Tokyo may have the best aesthetics, and California may have the most engaging storyline, there is still something special about the journey to the Hollywood Tower Hotel and crossing over into the 5th dimension that Imagineers simply haven't been able to reproduce. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed.
Well, I think that's it. See you tomorrow.
Oh, it's over. Well guys, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Have a good time for Disney.